This is the Daily Night for Thursday, January 31, 2018. The Daily Night supports Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, Internet Architect Web Content and Strategies, and Prolific Banana Web and Print Design for small businesses. Today on the show, The Last Jedi and Zen Buddhism, and Netflix, The Punisher. Thank you for visiting. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, so it's been probably 10 months since the last audio or video podcast. And just a whole bunch of things have been changing since then. Still working from home, still consulting, have a design business. But just the organization restructuring, focusing on different things in life. That's been happening for the last 10 months. And I've been thinking about how where the daily night will go. So yeah, my life has been changing a little bit, not significantly or anything, just moving stuff around, trying to prioritize things, and I really miss the podcast. Hopefully, I still have some listeners out there somewhere, but thank you for listening and continuing to listen and putting up with me. So, what the format of this podcast, probably trying to work with others and promoting their stuff. And we're going to try to cross-promote each other on our own respective podcasts. And the format for the Daily Night, I'm hoping will expand not from just like superhero movies and blockbusters, but also more smaller budget movies, like All the President's Men, like The Post, the new Tom Hanks movie, a discussion of maybe even documentaries, a little bit more boring stuff, but stuff I'm passionate about. Like I really want to do a podcast on Jiro Dreams of Sushi. That it was an Academy Award winner for Best Documentary a few years ago. Just a gorgeous movie. I just want to talk about stuff like that. You know, it might not attract a lot of people, but people who want to hear long format type podcasts may like it. So I hope you like the new jazz theme. I figured do a slower music, more relaxed. It's gonna reflect more of the show's direction instead of all hyper and all that stuff. It's also, I'm getting older, so I want to kind of take my time with discussing things as opposed to doing 10 minutes of craziness and then ending the YouTube video after that. I still want to kind of do that stuff though. It was fun doing the Suicide Squad drinking game, so I'm still gonna do that stuff. Okay, on with the show. It's already been 4 minutes of me talking, so let me get to the first part, which is Star Wars and Zen Buddhism. And if you read my the article that I wrote, I put on the dailynight.net, the dailynight.net. It's when I saw The Last Jedi, I immediately got into it because I read a lot about Zen Buddhism. Back in the late 90s, and like for 10 straight years I was totally like just reading all the philosophy of Buddhism, different types, and I'm going to talk about that on this Last Jedi comparison. So let me take a drink of water. It's so funny how refreshing an ice cold sip of water is after you've been talking for a while, and water tastes so much better when you're drinking it after doing something productive. So Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Those of you who have seen it, many of you have loved it, and many of you have hated the hell out of it. And it turned you off, and you said that this is totally not Star Wars. What the hell are you guys doing? What's wrong with you? Rian Johnson is destroying the Star Wars universe. I can totally understand where you're coming from because it's kind of nuts. But the way I'm older in life, and just all the crap that we see on a regular basis with life is actually, I think, being reflected in this movie. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because according to Mark Hamill, he said that you go to the movies to escape life, not to get more of it in a metaphorical way or whatever. So I'm hoping. I don't really know. I'm just digging it because it's so. You know what it is? I saw the movie. I didn't even have time or the mindset to be into Star Wars these past few months, because there's so much stuff to do with work, and I also work with a nonprofit to help them raise money, and then I have a cat, and I'm also taking care of my two retired parents. I'm officially the caregiver. So all these things are going on. Plus, the whatever friends are trying to contact me, asking you like, "Where the hell are you, Gerardo? What's like? You're like Luke on that island. you're just you're like a hermit." And I sort of am, just trying to get stuff, plus trying to get work done, trying to be productive. All these projects in my mind, and not enough time, and too many social network things to worry about. If you have a smartphone, chances are the percentage of your distraction times during the day because of your cell phone is more than you want it to be. So uh, again, with Luke on that island, it's like I kind of envy him. It's like he's over there just chilling out for 20 years is a lot of time to be by yourself with some porgs. But so yeah, this is why I'm digging the new Last Jedi, the new Star Wars movie. So let me start this with a story, absolutely true story, of my colleague back in the college days. Okay, so this is a true story of his cousin who um, was working. He was a regular white collar worker, and one day he decided he's single, and I think he was in his 20s when he decided this. He decided that he is going to become a Buddhist monk. Not kidding. This was in South America, and there was enough monasteries you can become a Buddhist monk in South America somewhere. Go up in the mountains, and just commute with nature and try to figure out the Zen of things. So he was getting ready to be a Buddhist monk. He sold all his belongings. He closed out his apartment or his house or whatever. He cashed out. He had a suitcase, one suitcase with all the clothes that you wanted to bring with him to the monastery. He already signed up. The monastery was waiting for him, and he was going to use the cash that he had, that he cashed out with, and donate it to the monastery where he was going to live the rest of his life as a Buddhist monk. True story, keep in mind. He's at the train station to get to that place where he's going to have to hike up the mountains, but he's at that train station with a suitcase, ready to be a monk, and he gets hungry and he goes into a restaurant to eat before the train arrives, and the waitress is gorgeous. The waitress who serves him is gorgeous. No kidding, true story. Buddhist monk about to go to the monastery, waiting at a train station, eats at a restaurant. He falls in love with a waitress. They get married. He dumps his old Buddhist, forget that stuff. They get married, they get a house, they settle down together, and then it doesn't work out. Oh, they also have a kid. But it doesn't work out. So they get a divorce. They get joint custody of the kid. He now has alimony, so he has to go back to work full time to pay for his own life as well as pay alimony for his child. So, and I keep thinking about this. I'm personally not married, and I keep thinking about this story. And then even my friend who told me that story, he said, "Yeah, it's like it's what do you call it? A cautionary tale. It's like if you have that suitcase and you cashed out and you're gonna go be a Buddhist monk, just like don't go to a restaurant, eat lunch. Just bring a sandwich with you." Just don't talk to anybody until you're in that train. I don't know if I'm the only one entertained by this or you're laughing with me as well out there, but I think it's a true story. It's hilarious and sad and poignant, and it's a lesson to be learned somehow. So imagine I know that story, and then I go and see The Last Jedi, and then I see Luke on that freaking island, and he's all miserable looking, but he's more miserable when somebody's there to go talk to him. When Rey knocks on his door, and just the way his reaction to the lightsaber handoff. And as soon as I saw that, he flips that lightsaber over his shoulder, and I think I busted out laughing in the theater, and half the people in the theater got it, and half the people in the theater were like, "Oh no, the movie's going in this direction. We're screwed. It's never going to be Star Wars again. There goes the hero worship stuff." And then the movie goes on, and it's Luke, catching a fish and hiking up the mountain with a big old fish on his shoulder, and then that scene that everybody's still talking about, months after the freaking movie came out. And when he milked the sea cow, it's called the Thala Siren. I think that's what it's called. And people are like, especially the younger teenage boys, like, what the hell? Why is Luke drinking from an alien's nipple? He should be dating supermodels. So I see that scene. I'm going, that's. Well, what do you expect a hermit to do? He's got to survive. A Jedi's got to eat. So let me check okay. So Luke is doing what he needs to survive. So he doesn't have to have money to go buy his lunch. There is no drive-through on Ashto, whatever that island's called. I'll take a drink again. Man, I'm getting dry fast. I'm going to take my sweet old time with this podcast. It's been a while, guys. So, what else? And then you think, at the end of The Force Awakens, you got this island. Beautiful. It's like a resort, like, the Club Med or whatever they're called now. The Sandals. It's like a resort. Beautiful, beautiful. And then Ryan Johnson in The Last Jedi, you have beautiful day one day, and immediately, like half a day later, it's storming. It's like a hurricane force winds, and it's not that idyllic, Zen training that you would expect from a Jedi and a Padawan. And Rey's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. It's like, where's Luke walking to now? He's walking up the mountain. Oh no, he's going to catch a fish. Oh, nope. He's gonna clean up his silverware or whatever. And then the scene where he flicks the little leaf, and the Rey thinks, "Oh my God, I'm feeling the Force now." Just all those little things that it's basically a deconstruction of the Force, according to how we were taught for the Force to be from watching the previous movies. Because most people who watch the Star Wars movies are probably not going to go read about Buddhism or Joseph Campbell, the power of myth, all that stuff that George Lucas based his Jedi and Force stuff on. It's old mythology, and it's the Buddhism is still alive and well all over the world, and there's an American Buddhism that's happening. I'm going to add a link to the podcast. It's there's an article CNN just wrote. What is that? January 26th, called "The Spiritual Message Hidden in Star Wars." So, great article. The nice thing is I feel good because I actually wrote about the Zen Buddhism stuff before that article came out. So I was like, I am validated for what I was thinking about. So, okay. So, all you kids who are totally turned off by what the heck Luke was doing with his Jedi thing, it is very much in the tradition of Zen and Buddhism. Zen is let me jump ahead. I got my show notes, and I'm jumping ahead to the Zen stuff. Zen is about, shit happens. Whatever's happening is Zen. Zen is not about day spas and, you know, rock gardens and bonsai trees. Zen is what is. Zen is your what is this is what I wrote. Zen isn't about happiness, but happiness is Zen. Zen isn't about sadness, but sadness is also Zen. Zen isn't about heroic deeds or lightsabers or hearing angels singing a John Williams theme song. Zen isn't about clean endings. It isn't about clear explanations. Zen isn't about blindly following something just because it's what you're supposed to do. Zen is harmonious and chaotic at the same time. Zen presents the world as it is, not as we would like it to be. Sometimes we get lucky and the world actually becomes what we want it to be, but more often than not, it's not. So, mirroring that into The Last Jedi, more often than not, it's not. That should be the title of this podcast. More often than not, it's not. What did we expect? Before the movie came out, there was 2 years of speculations, right? Who was Rey's parents? Is Finn and Rey gonna be a couple? Who is Luke gonna do some badass fighting of the Knights of Ren? Is he gonna just confront the bad guys and just wipe them out with one with one wave of the hand? Like there was this rogue story coming out, like a sneak preview, with Luke confronting like 5 Knights of Ren, and he just demolishes them. And I keep thinking, I was like, that would have been freaking awesome to see, right? But there have been enough movies where we saw that. My God, John Wick 2. John Wick does it in every movie about 5 times. Denzel Washington's The Equalizer. What's that latest one? I'm forgetting the movie. There's another one that just came out. Just all these the hero takes on. Jon Snow with Game of Thrones, right? Takes on the whole cavalry. The Battle of the Bastards. Okay, take another sip. Okay, so man, that's good water. And when I say water, really is water. It's not spiked or anything. It just I just really like clean ice water. So it's such a refreshing drink. So Zen is what is. And what I like about The Last Jedi is it is not a typical action movie. A typical action movie starts off with this, and the hero always wins, or the hero will ultimately win, or you can see the hero about to win, or you know that the hero is going to win. There was never any doubt. This thing, the Last Jedi, the first battle, it was what they call a Pyrrhic victory, where you actually lost more than what you gained, even though you won the battle. So with Poe Dameron doing his thing, he disabled the guns so the fleet can escape. And then Poe said, no, we can take out this big dreadnought if only we can bring in the bombers to bomb the heck out of the dreadnought. The problem is they lost all but one. No, they lost every single bomber in their fleet. And how many lives? A couple dozen people? And what did they get out of it? The one of the dreadnought gets destroyed. But how many dreadnoughts are out there? How many Star Destroyers are out there still, right? So it's not that big a deal. And they still had the tracking device somewhere. They still wound up tracking the rebel fleet. So it looked cool as the beginning. It's almost like obligatory for an action movie, especially Star Wars, is to start off with a big battle. Just to, so we're still eating our popcorn and drinking our Cokes and we want the beginning to be awesome, spectacular, and then we can settle in our seats and get on with the rest of the movie. The cool part with The Last Jedi is there was this battle, and there was that funky, can you hear me now thing with Poe and Hux. But at the same time, it wasn't a victory like a superhero victory. A bunch of good guys died. And then from that point on, everything, the whole timeline is weird. They jump to Luke and Rey on the island, and before that scene ends, Luke throws the lightsaber away, and Rey is trying to chase him down, trying to present herself as his student. And if you have watched any of the other kung fu movies where a student tries to present him or herself to the master, more often than not, the master is always trying to like, get away from me, kid. It's like, I don't want to teach you. It's like, I'm sick of teaching people, right? Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid, the Kill Bill, when Uma Thurman's character, the bride, goes to learn from the kung fu master. Like, he tortured her, and he didn't even want her there, right? It's so hard to find somebody proper to teach you, and when you find them, they don't want to teach you. Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, I cannot teach. Let me do my Yoda. I cannot teach him. He is too old. All of this other excuses that Yoda did, just trying to not to teach Luke. That's part of its reality. And then for those of you who have actually trained with mentors or learned from mentors, the lessons are never straightforward. Never, ever. My professors in design school, and when I was going to college, I didn't even realize they were teaching me lessons until long after I graduated. It's like I talk to people now, and both my main professors, my mentors in college, they're both dead now. They passed away years ago. And I'm still discovering stuff that they taught me. It's like, now I understand why you mentioned that to me. I can apply that now. I'm at the age where it's, I can properly apply it. And, they're both passed away. Now, Force Ghost, right? You go to the Force Ghost, and the Jedi who are still alive are still learning lessons from the Force Ghost. And the nice thing is, through the movies, we are able to bring the dead back to life, or at least bring the dead back to a mentoring format. So you have the Force Ghosts who can still talk to the living, and they're still teaching the lessons long after they physically died. So let me jump to the Luke at the end dying. How far are we into the thing? Okay, see, 23 minutes. I can go on forever. And I'm not going to, because I don't want to put you through all that stuff, dear listeners. So Luke, a lot of people were pissed off at Luke also dying. It's like, why does Luke have to die? Why didn't he just bust ass on Crate? He should have just flown with Rey and Chewie and the Falcon and then come swooping down, and then you hear the cavalry music from John Williams, and then Luke goes out and he takes on all those walkers by himself because he's Luke and he can do anything. And it's like, we keep forgetting Luke just wants to be left alone. So how can he do that and still help the resistance, the rebellion, the good guys? And so he does the astral projection. And people felt like, it's like, he wasn't really there, so it wasn't really a real battle, so I feel gypped. I want my money back. And it's like, can you imagine if you could go to work, get all your stuff done, improve the profitability of your company, and have the people there look up to you and feel good about you helping out and notice that you've made a difference, and you get to do all that without leaving your bed. So I watched that thing when they show back to Luke, and I'm going, wait, something's hinky here. When I first saw his the lightsaber that he uses in his astral format for projection, where it was the lightsaber that broke halfway through the Last Jedi, and I'm thinking, wait, something's hinky, something's going on, and when they finally showed it was a force projection. Like, that is the most awesome thing in the world. That is so. It's not. I guess it's efficient. It does. It reaches the goal that it wants to, and he doesn't have to kill anybody to do it. He did not have to kill one bad guy in order to do what he wanted to do, which was basically to buy time for the good guys to escape. Now there are people online that says, you could have bought time for the people to escape through other ways. Yeah, but it wouldn't be a dramatic moment in a movie. It wouldn't be the climax of a movie. Another thing, that whole astral projection, where how many movies can you think of where the climactic battle of the movie was fought by nobody touching each other and the main hero not even being there? Because if they had done this through holographic or whatever in any other movie, we would have felt gypped. The Flash TV show has done that. They did some projection type thing, misdirection, and in Star Trek Beyond, with what's her name, the alien girl, she has the discs that would make people think that she's in like multiple places at once. You cannot supposedly have a climactic big battle, big boss battle at the end of a movie when the actual hero isn't even there. But they did it with this movie. They pulled it off. Now, I'm saying they pulled it off even though a lot of people are hating this movie. Why I'm saying they pulled it off is this movie is made $1.3 billion the worldwide. Now, I know it's less than the $1.6 billion that the movie was projected to make, but it's still the sixth highest grossing movie in history, with unadjusted for inflation numbers. It's the second highest grossing Star Wars movie, not adjusted for inflation. That's saying a lot for a movie that kind of destroyed the concept of Star Wars for, I don't know how many people, hundreds of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe. I think it's more. I think a lot of people got turned off by The Last Jedi. But now keep in mind, now we don't know where Star Wars is going from this point on. Anything could happen. We got the original trilogy style. They could go back to that. We have the prequel style. They could go back to that. They polish it up a little bit. I think the prequel style has something good going for it. I didn't appreciate the prequels. I'm not a big fan. But there were enough elements of it. Like Revenge of the Sith, that opening battle was amazing. So, and the lightsaber battle in The Phantom Menace with Darth Maul is amazing. So you have the prequels. And then you have the new trilogy. We have The Force Awakens, which is another different type of Star Wars movie because there were more one-to-one interactions with people. It was more character-driven than it was story-driven. And then Rogue One is a totally different story altogether. It felt more like a pseudo-documentary Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers type of World War II action movie, a Dirty Dozen, right? And then The Last Jedi introduced yet another type of way to tell the Star Wars story. So the nice thing about this is, whether we like it or not, Star Wars is fresh again. Whether we think, or at least unique, whether that uniqueness is savory, it's acceptable to the mass audiences, or it's people will just stop watching Star Wars from now on. I think they will continue to, because this is the experiment. This is the experiment that Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, even Lawrence Kasdan. They're trying to see what will work, because the world right now, our world, Earth, is so much more different than it was back in the 70s. Now, I am old enough to say that I saw the original Star Wars back in 1977. I was 11 years old. And the world was totally different back then. Oh my God, was it totally different. It was simple. Things were more straightforward. We didn't really know what was going on. We had no internet. So, what we read in books and magazines and newspapers and what people told us, that's all the news that we had. So that was like maybe 30 sources of information back then, if you're lucky. And a telephone call, you actually had to pay per minute. I think it was like 5 or 10 cents a minute every time you made a phone call. So imagine that. If those of you are old enough to remember those days, and when you made a long distance call, holy crap, it was like $5 for like half an hour of a long distance call, and I'm talking about 30 miles away. That was long distance. It's not like another state or another country. It's just like right next door, but it was beyond your calling zone back then. We had how many? What? 15 channels on our TVs? No cable? Just Star Wars is so much different now, needs to be, than it was back then, because it's the world is more sophisticated. We expect more. We see more nuances. We have high def. We get to see movies at home in our home theaters. We have shorter attention spans now. We are more into. We have more access to information, so we are less tolerant of bullshit. And we can research it. We can Google that to see if it's right or wrong. Characters in movies are so much more complicated. They have more depth. There's more civil rights. That just the inclusion of characters other than males as the heroes. The inclusion of other ethnicities as heroes. So I mean, you see it happening. It's already started to happen in The Force Awakens, where one of the heroes is African American, and the main hero is a woman. So I mean, as much as Carrie Fisher wanted to do back in the original trilogy, she was still the damsel in distress. She was still the princess. She knew strategy. She could fight like hell, but it seems like she was still trying to be rescued. Every other moment in the movie. But the world is different now. So I think the Last Jedi is the movie that says, you got to catch up with what's going on. Things don't always happen as they should be. Things aren't clear cut, and the movies that are still making the companies that are still making movies that are straightforward, clear cut, where the good guy is like the classic Superman character, the do-gooder, it's going to get boring after a while. As you can see from the different Superman movie iterations of the last, 15, 20 years, it's a different world. So it's the Star Wars universe and Disney adapting to this new way of thinking, new way of approaching storytelling. So, wow, that took me, 33 minutes to get to. But, it is what it is. Let's see, I have a whole bunch of stuff else to talk about. I suggest just go to thedailynight.net and read the articles that I wrote regarding The Last Jedi. And it'll give you an idea of what I was thinking about. There's more, details and stuff. So I'm looking at my show notes and saying, so why do people continue to pay money to see this movie if very little of it is predictable, hardly any of it clearly identifies the hero or any type of protagonist? There was no resolution at the end. Keep in mind, it's like The Last Jedi was just them running, and then escaping. There's no difference from what they were doing at the beginning of the movie and what they were doing at the end. Was there any character development? Did anybody get better? No. Nope. In fact, more people died. It was almost like Empire Strikes Back. But the Luke learning the Force through Yoda scene, I think they did not want to recreate it in The Last Jedi because we've gone through that already. Just go watch Empire. So they kind of synopsized it. And we still have yet to know who the heck Rey is. It's like, how does she know these Force powers so naturally without Luke teaching her? I wonder if it's a plot hole. A lot of people are saying it's a plot hole, but maybe we'll get an explanation of it in the next movie. Because supposedly, did they talk about this? Is Rey the young student that was in Luke's class, and Kylo Ren was jealous of her or something? either I read it somewhere or it was actually told in the movie where this younger Padawan, younger student kind of was showing off, and Kylo Ren didn't like it or something like that. And then, yeah, that's a whole nother storyline. So hold on, no, I'm gonna take another sip of water. By the way, as I'm doing this podcast, it's like what, end of January, Southern California, and it's in the mid 80s outside. So I have my air conditioner on. Go figure. I think that's why I'm kind of dehydrated. But yeah, such as see, okay, another thing. You expect America, so wherever you are, to be a little chilly in January, or you'd be snowbound right now. But no, not in Southern California. This is probably, from my memory, it's the warmest type of weather we've had from what I remember. I remember when I was a kid, we got the heaters on, we got bundles of clothing on, cold as heck. I think it's supposed to be the average temperature right now should be like 68, the high, and today's 85. That's almost 20 degrees warmer than it should be. So, what else? Yeah, but I'm not going to talk about stuff that other people have already talked about, like Ray seeing herself in the mirror. Who knows what that's going to be? But it kind of makes sense with me. That's very much Zen still. You are what you make yourself. It's the whole Batman Begins. Right? It's what I do with it. It's the things that I do that count. That's yeah. What you know what I mean. Okay, so I'm scrolling through my notes. Um, Let me see. Oh, and then how successful is Star Wars going to be from now on? Because it's like Star Wars is betraying its audience. Um, you know what I think? I think Star Wars is actually the next Star Wars movie is going to make more money than the Last Jedi because um, people. I first of all, I don't think the next Star Wars Episode 9, the next Star Wars, is going to be as disjointed as the Last Jedi, uh, because it doesn't have the duty to be anymore. The Last Jedi kind of established the fact that anything goes, um, and the next movie is just gonna focus more on the story. It's probably gonna be more cohesive, and it has the responsibility of wrapping things up for this trilogy. So it's going to have to clarify every single thing as much as it can because who knows where the next trilogy is going to take place, right? So it's just in terms of not leaving us in a lurch, not leaving us um, empty-handed. I think even as for me personally, as much as I enjoy The Last Jedi and its goofiness, I want the next movie to wrap it up, make things clear for me so that let's finish the meal with a good dessert and go on to the next fresh trilogy after this. So they need to clarify everything. What else? I think Star Wars is actually gonna continue to be successful, regardless of the Last Jedi. Come on, it's $1.3 billion. Only what, 6 movies I read? Only 6 movies in history has ever reached $1 billion. Um, so it's fine. As much as there are people out there who want Star Wars to go away or fail because they felt betrayed by the Last Jedi, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think if anything, I think other movies are going to copy this format. Uh, what is it? The Star Trek franchise, the what is it? The Star Trek Discovery, how they use the curse word "fuck" in there, and now it's all controversial. And it's like, what's the big deal? And then Tarantino is going to direct the next Star Trek movie, and it's going to be R-rated. Yeah, you think it's the Star Wars being so funky is having an influence on other science fiction fantasy type movies out there? Of course it's going to be. Star Wars set the tone back in the 70s. Star Wars didn't really set the tone back in the prequel trilogies, but the other movie companies are looking to Star Wars to see where the trend is going. Star Wars is the trendsetter. It's not going to be Avatar. It's not going to be the Aliens movies. It's not going to be the Terminator movies. It's not going to be the upcoming Dune movie, or other science fictiony, more straight science fiction type movies like The Martian. No, if there's any genre that's having a huge impact on anything, it's the Fast and Furious movies. Other movies are copying them, and also the monster movies, like the Dwayne Johnson monster movies or the disaster movies. They are setting up a formula, and I think it's in a good way. I'm one of the few people that liked San Andreas. I really liked that movie because people were more. The it, I can't believe I'm saying this. It felt more realistic as a disaster movie. Okay, so I'm going off a tangent. Let's see. Same thing with Marvel getting the X-Men franchise and whatever, and the what do you call it? The Fantastic Four franchise. I think Marvel, now that it knows what makes it money, will be able to make other movies that take more chances just to see if it's worth making those other types of movies, because Marvel knows how to make movies, so it's gonna make its budget to experiment with other movies. So, and it's gonna do that. Marvel Netflix. I'm gonna talk about the Punisher later on in this podcast. But stuff like that. It's like if you have enough capital, you can take chances. And if you're lucky enough that you take those chances and you make more money taking those chances, now the world is your proverbial oyster. You can go anywhere. Star Wars can go back to the traditional trilogy. Who knows? I heard the Han Solo movie coming up in May. It's going to be a heist, like a bank heist or something, which was kind of cool. That's another thing. It's going to be like Logan Lucky, maybe. That would be awesome. Or like Hell or High Water meets Logan Lucky meets Star Wars. That's going to be the Han Solo movie. Imagine that. And or the Baby Driver, another like that. You smush all those movies together, and you make it a Star Wars, a Han Solo movie. That might be cool. And you got the coolest hot rods in the galaxy with a Millennium Falcon and whatever else. So I hope that Ron Howard can salvage that Han Solo movie, because it's just a lot of problems being shown on the news about the Han Solo movie. So let's see. All right, I'm going to end this segment of the podcast. I've been waiting to talk about this. This is another story, but this is a legendary story. It's been around for hundreds of years. Let me see. I'm scrolling down I'm going to read it verbatim. Okay, here it is. There's an old Zen story about a Buddhist monk and his student. Both men were walking home during a strong storm when they came upon a portion of the road that the rain had turned into a large puddle. A concubine was standing next to it. A concubine is sort of like a mistress, a woman for pleasure for the emperor type stuff, okay? A concubine was standing next to the puddle deciding how to cross. It's raining. Concubines, they're dainty, they have little slippers, and if they stepped into a puddle and tripped, it'll become a mess. The Buddhist monk and his student, they're kind of hardier people, so they can go through storms. They can get their feet and legs wet, and it's okay, muddy and all that, no problem. So the master offered to carry the concubine on his back so she could cross without getting wet or tripping into the puddle. The concubine agreed and jumped on the monk's back, and they crossed together. At the far end, the monk let the concubine get back on her feet and on her way. He was carrying her across the puddle, and then after he crossed the puddle, she jumped off his back. And then the monk and his student went their own way and walked home in silence. It's still pouring rain. When they arrived at the monastery, the monk and the monk and his student, the student couldn't contain himself any longer and said to the monk, "Master, We are sworn to chastity and are forbidden to interact with women, especially concubines. Why did you do that back there?" The master simply said, "I left her back there after we crossed the puddle. Why are you still carrying her?" Huh? Moral of the story is, no matter what the Last Jedi is throwing at you and it's freaking you out, it's making you, either you're absolutely loving it and you want more, or you're absolutely hating it and you just want your world to go back to the old ways. It's a temporary thing. We will get the next Star Wars movie in less than 2 years. We got the Han Solo movie this May. We got another Star Wars, I think it's going to be Ben Kenobi story next year. Just leave the concubine where you dropped her off at the edge of the puddle and go on with your life, and things should be fine. So, okay, let me do a quick PSA. Let me do a pause for editing. Okay, so I'm going to. I have like 3 promotions. A bunch of us are supporting each other by promoting each other with our podcast. The first one is Making Biscuits. Now, if you followed me from for the last 3 years, I keep talking about Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. They are a cat rescue based in Southern California. And let me read what I wrote, and then I'll talk about it some more. If you're enjoying this podcast and want to donate to a good cause, please consider sending a PayPal gift of any amount to Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. Let me see. I'm trying to get my... Okay. So, please consider sending a PayPal gift of any amount to Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. And the URL for their website is makingbiscuits.org. Makingbiscuits.org. Also, if you want to research on Facebook, they have a Facebook page called Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. It's got a bunch of cute little kittens on the homepage. There's a donate button there. You can also donate. Let me see where else is. If you go to makingbiscuits.org, there's a whole bunch of ways where you can donate. And another nice thing is if you have an Amazon account. There's this thing called Amazon Smile, where it does not cost you a penny to do this. What happens is Amazon will actually donate some of their income from what you buy to the charity of your choice. And what you can do is go to smile.amazon.com and look up Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. Okay, so the URL is smile.amazon.com. And if you're already a member, go there, and then they ask you to choose a charity that you want to support, and choose Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. So what happens is if you buy, I think it donates, Amazon donates like 1.5% of their income from what you purchase from them, and donates it to Making Biscuits. So all you got to do is whenever you order something, you go through smile.amazon.com and you do your shopping regularly, and then you check out, and after you pay, it'll say, thank you for your purchase, as well as helping out makingbiscuits.com, Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, and you won't even notice it. And then every month, Amazon will remind you that you're a good person and that you included Making Biscuits Cat Rescue when you purchased. Even though you did not donate a penny of your own money, your Amazon is donating on behalf of you. Okay, so that's another thing. Smile.amazon.com and choose Making Biscuits Cat Rescue as your charity of choice. Making Biscuits also has a wish list that you can go on. I'll put that on the show notes also, the link to it. So here's the rest of the spiel for Making Biscuits. Even if you donate just $1, now $1 will buy you a can of food that a rescuer can use to feed a stray cat, or help get the cat in a humane trap so it can be taken to an animal hospital to be checked out medically and spayed or neutered. The cat rescuers, they do their best to try to get deals, like discounts, because they are a nonprofit organization. They are actually, Making Biscuits is a 501c3 nonprofit, and they get discounts because they do so much for the neighborhood, for the community. So your $1, even if you just donate $1, will help prevent unnecessary kittens being born and help with controlling overpopulation. If you look around, I don't know if any of you have traveled to Greece lately, or a lot of these European towns. There's a ton of cats on the streets just walking around. That's because they don't have as many cat rescuers helping control the cat population. If you want to be kind to animals, you will also help control their population through humane means. And the number one humane means to helping control an animal population is to get them fixed, spayed or neutered, just so they don't make any more. That's the most humane way. It's not about killing them or culling them or hunting them, especially with domestic animals, with cats and dogs and, turtles, one of which I have. You can't really spay or neuter a turtle, but you know what I mean. It's like, you keep them from multiplying, and it's good for them. It's good for people. It's good for the community. It's it makes everything better. But you need to support these rescuers. If you see them, donate $1, whatever you have, pocket change. Any little thing will help them because they're in so much need of support. Or volunteer for them, even better if you have the time. So, if you give just $1, you'll feel good about yourself. You will. I don't know if you ever tried that. Just it always feel good, and who knows? Maybe the good karma will come back to you. Go buy a lottery ticket later on in the week, and hopefully you'll win something. So, you can support Making Biscuits Cat Rescue by visiting makingbiscuits.org. So you can actually just, by the way, making biscuits. Why is it called making biscuits? Because when you knead dough when you're baking and you're kneading dough, and so when a cat is happy, a kitten or a cat, you see these on videos on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. You'll see cats when they're really really happy. You see their front paws start to knead, KNEAD, and it looks like they're like making dough, like rolling dough. And that's because they're happy, because it's their it's sort of ingrown in their brain, where they do that, like they're kneading when they want to when they're kittens and they want to feed. Going back to Luke and the sea cow, milking the sea cow, when kittens want to suckle from their moms to help the mom's milk. They need the mom's breast, and then they go on and they suckle. So whenever they're in happy mode, that's like their happy place, is suckling from their moms. And when cats are kneading, their cats are kneading their front paws, it's like they're in their really really happy place. So Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, it's making biscuits, trying to get cats to that happy place where they feel protected, they feel cared for, they feel loved. And that requires a bunch of resources, including decent food, regular vet checks, the proper vaccinations, the proper environment. Every cat should have its own cat bed. And you'd be surprised how many of these cat rescuers can't even afford one decent cat bed per cat that they have in their places. So, okay, so that's it. I'm gonna take just a quick pause right here. You won't even notice the difference because I'm gonna rest my throat for a little bit, and I'll go on to the next segment. Okay, so thank you for listening. Coming up, what is coming up? I'm gonna talk about Netflix The Punisher. So that should be another long segment. So I'll be back. Okay, next up is Netflix The Punisher. Let me see. Just my initial reaction to it. I have a whole bunch of show notes and bullet points about it. But the first thing I'm noticing with these Netflix Marvel series is they're learning from their mistakes from the previous one, improving it on the next one, and so they just keep getting better and better and better, in my opinion. Maybe with a little stumble with Iron Fist, but it looks like the first two Daredevils. The first Daredevil, okay, they had established format, but there were some moments in there where there was like almost whole episodes where it wasn't really necessary for the whole storyline, and kind of like boring. And then what came out after that? Um, Jessica Jones. Yeah, Jessica Jones came out, and then they explored the more person, people driven story, not just action. Fighting type thing. And then from what they learned from those two series, they combined it, and then they made Daredevil 2 to introduce the Punisher. In my opinion, a lot of people said that Daredevil 2 was not as good as Daredevil 1 season. I just because there's Elektra and Punisher in Daredevil 2, and you didn't have to set up the Daredevil story, which is like I think the first few episodes of the series 1 Daredevil. Once you see it once, you kind of don't want to see it again. Well, except for the second episode, the hallway. Anytime there's a hallway fight in a Netflix Marvel series, you know it's gonna be good. So let's see, Daredevil, uh, and then Luke Cage took it to another level where now they make they continue with the hero being almost like the villain almost being the hero, like Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. Let me see, Jessica Jones, and then Iron Fist, and then they came out with the Defenders as a group, and then they came out, and then they released the Punisher, and it looks like the Punisher to me is the best put together series out of all the Marvel Netflix series, and I think that's because they've learned from their mistakes, and then they implemented what they learned to make a really tight. I mean, this is 13 episodes, and I could watch it over and over again. I think I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and the more I watch it, the less Madani annoys me. But Detective Madani, the woman detective. Uh, the first time I saw it, I go, man, she's just in the way. Get her out of the way. Get her out of the way. It's like Emily Blunt in Sicario. It's like, man, she's gonna get people killed just because she's not used to being. She's a newbie for that area. It's not because she's a woman. She's a newbie, and well, actually no, because she's a woman. It's like she has to prove herself more, so she has to try harder, and in trying harder, it looks obvious, and then you always wind up pissing off. There's always that gruff guy who's been in there forever, and he doesn't want to change things around. And it's like C. Thomas Howell is the one in the Punisher series, where he's the seasoned, sort of corrupt, well, really corrupt detective. I think, was he the chief? Yeah. So I'm going off on a tangent again. So the Punisher, to me, it's the best out of all the Marvel Netflix series. It's also John freaking Bernthal. Like, come on, it's Shane from Walking Dead, and he already had a stellar. I can't speak English today. He already had a stellar performance in Punisher season 2. I mean, his spiel at the graveyard, that's right there. That's I don't know why they don't give out awards to superhero movies, but that was an amazing scene. So let's see. So many aspects to the Punisher Netflix series. There is the fighting, of course. There is the revenge part. There's the torture scenes. There's also the bromance between Lieberman / Micro and Frank Castle / Punisher. There is domestic life, how to juggle a family while being a superhero, undercover person, trying to stay invisible. and then introducing what's her name, the lawyer. Oh my God, I'm doing a brain fart. But you know her name, the blonde woman, and she's like Rosario Dawson, where she kind of pops in and out of these Netflix series. And then to see was Foggy in there? I think Foggy was also in Punisher. So okay, I'm kind of babbling. So let me go through my bullet points so it's more specific. So just to synopsize, the Punisher starts with actually Castle's revenge on the people that killed his family. Then he, at the end of Daredevil season 2, he was gonna go out and hunt the people who, he's gonna do his revenge on the people who killed his family. So the Punisher season 1 begins with him with his final two revenging two people. So the first, the very first scene of the Punisher was his sniper specialty, marksmanship. That was the cool part. Is I had to watch it 3 times to realize that he was the guy that he was shooting was in Mexico, but where Frank Castle was sitting with his long range rifle was in the United States territory. And they actually shot the bullet across the Mexican border to kill the bad guy. So keep an eye out on it. They showed little subtitles that says, what was it? Juarez, Mexico. Where the bullet hit was Juarez, and then where they swoop back to him, and it says El Paso, Texas, I think. So I think that was cool. It's like, oh, I get it. There was a Galveston. I'm not sure. And then he just wants to be left. What is this with this theme of wanting to be left alone? So he's a construction worker, and he just seems to just want to sledgehammer the hell out of walls. And all his coworkers think he's weird, and he's a loner, and he's got his issues, and he's got a beard, just like Luke Skywalker. Please see the previous segment of this podcast. And he's a reluctant hero. He just doesn't want to he doesn't want to try to save the world. He got his revenging done at the beginning of the series. So he's trying to figure stuff out. The cool part about this is he's surrounded by amazing characters. He's surrounded by his what do you call it? The counseling coach. I forgot his name. Did I ever know his name? He was just there. I remember Billy Russo is the main bad guy, but he was like the smooth talker, and he was Prince Caspian in the Narnia series, the Narnia movie. In case you were wondering, he's British, so he pulled off that. Is that a Jersey accent that he had? Amazing actor. Freaked the hell out of me. I go, I know this guy. I've seen this guy before. I can tell by the way he talks. I know he's British. It's like, and I looked it up. It's like, oh my God, it's Prince Caspian from Narnia. So when people who've never seen any of the Marvel Netflix shows ask me, what are they like? I always tell them it's like Law and Order, but with superheroes. They are police procedurals for the most part, except maybe for Luke Cage. They are very matter of fact. When they're at their best, they feel almost like a reenactment, documentary reenactment of what really happened. And so, no, go back to the cast of characters. You got Luke Cage. You got Frank Castle, Pete Castiglione. You got Micro, which is Lieberman in his underground bat cave. And then you have Madani, who is the upstart detective who starts a relationship with Billy Russo, who she doesn't know is one of the top 3 bad guys in this whole thing. And she only realizes it like episode 11 or 10, something like that. later on. And at the same time, like he's getting all these inside stuff from her, inside double entendre, is like inside scoop on what the police is doing. So I'm checking my time and okay, minimizing the window so it's not distraction. Okay, so um, cast of characters. What else? Who else is in there? Um, you got poor Madani's sidekick. I now I'll do a semi spoiler. I'm not gonna tell you, like what happens to people. So, and let me go by my bulleted list, so I'm not kind of all over the place. Easy to watch multiple times, like Law and Order Superheroes. 13 episodes is right on. It's not too little, not too much. I think, like for example, Jessica Jones. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 episodes too long. There were easily like 2 consecutive episodes that did not need to be there. Um, Especially where the purple man keeps getting away and coming back, getting away with Jessica Jones. It's like, eh. I was actually talking to some friends about that, and it's like, yeah, how come like they always get the bad guy, and like it took you forever to get the bad guy, and the bad guy's smart. Why do you have such terrible ways of holding the bad guy that the bad guy can easily escape from? Bad guy, bad girl. So was there? No, there wasn't any of the. Not too much. No, not really. There wasn't any of that in The Punisher. I think that's another thing where Netflix is learning. It's like the audience will only believe you so much if you keep letting go of the bad guy through some stupid means. Even Billy Russo near the end, where he gets away with getting shot in the shoulder only. It's like you think they would have raided that warehouse from like surrounded it, so even that back exit Billy Russo couldn't get away. But again, it's part of the plot of the whole series where he had to get away in order for the big fight to happen between the mano a mano between him and Frank Castle. So if you haven't seen the series yet and you don't remember when Frank Castle goes all Punisher Berserker, it's episode 11. So it's 2 episodes before the end is when he finally straps on his Memento Mori vest with a skull face on it. And this transformation for him being Pete Castiglione and a human being trying to deal with other human beings without guns, to when he puts on the Punisher outfit. That's an amazing episode. Episode 11 and episode 13, if you want the most action, those are the 2 that you should watch. But there was enough action during. That's another thing I liked about it. There was another little action scenes going on. How many are there? Like 6 or 7. The scene where he visits his armed forces buddy who has the bow and arrow. That whole episode with the drone, with the Lieberman's drone following them, that beautiful episode. That in itself could have been. It felt like the Jeremy Renner Bourne movie, where he's out in the woods and he's doing survival stuff, and he has to figure out. It's like anything that's in the woods that is. It's about strategy and trying to use the nature's elements to help you out. Just that I love that stuff. It's a fresh change of pace from everything being in the city, that's the thing is like Daredevil movies, the Daredevil series, they were almost always right around Hell's Kitchen. So after a while, it's like, okay, building. The nice thing with the Punisher, and he's in different locations. That's another thing. Locations. You switch from Lieberman's warehouse hideout to Lieberman's family's house with his wife and 2 kids. You have the police station, the tall building where Madani is. You have Madani's we got apartment. Uh, what else? You have the forest, and then you have the military complex where that weird S&M guy. I'm trying to figure out. I was like, why did they do that segment again? That's all I remember. It's like why did Frank Castle need to go in there to get something to track the phone to get to the other bad guys? Is I think it's more what I remember the most is just the is it they call it BDSM? I'm not into that stuff, so I don't even know what the bondage and dungeon. I don't know BDSM. So the BDSM mistress putting the ball gag on the colonel. That's all I can remember about that. Oh, plus the doing smoke so you can hide from the bad guys and just pick them off one by one. That's another cool thing that Frank Castle does in this movie more than once, is just picking off bad guys like Batman. That was like, okay, the big fight in show 11, episode 11, where the bad guys try to storm Lieberman's hideout, and Frank has all these booby traps, and he's like hiding in corners and stuff. Totally reminds me of Batman Begins, when Batman goes into the hospital or Arkham Asylum to try to rescue Rachel. Remember that? It's like all the bad guys are like, what's going on? What's going on? What? I hear sounds, and then they're just getting picked off one by one. Like, awesome. That's cool. So I think Daredevil. I have to watch Daredevil again. I think he did that also. John Wick does that all the time. So I don't know if it'll ever get old to me. If they can do that and be original about it, I think it's cool. So, what else? The bromance between Lieberman and Frank Castle. Lieberman wearing that damn robe for a good chunk of the series totally reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this movie, Kiss of the Spider Woman, way back in the 80s, I think, with Raul Julia and William Hurt. And they were in a some kind of like a foreign prison, terrible conditions, and they have to get along with each other. And Raul Julia, from what I remember, was the soldier, and William Hurt was a transvestite, so he was very effeminate, soft-spoken, nurturing, almost like the woman, the female. And Raul Julia was the male part. And Lieberman and Frank Castle, it's like Lieberman was the wife and Frank Castle was the husband, and they had to coexist in Lieberman's hideout and try to not kill each other. I think that was cool. And Lieberman, his tone is a perfect complement to Frank Castle's gruff, in your face. Lieberman wants to accomplish things without violence as much as possible, even though he kind of breaks his own rules a couple of times. Really cool car chases in this. I just remembered, there's a scene with Lieberman blindsides Madani's. What, she have a Mustang? She has a classic Mustang, and Frank Castle steals a modern Mustang, which is that's, I don't know if you caught that. That's kind of cool. It was a night race. Let's see. I'm gonna take a sip. The Punisher was filled with great dialogue, great quotes, great ideas. Lieberman's Memento Mori speech, and Frank Castle didn't even know why he painted a skull, and then Lieberman reminds him, that skull, it's called Memento Mori, and it's put on the clothes of soldiers back in the Roman Empire times. And it's to remind them that no matter how many battles they win and how many times they survive, sooner or later, death is going to get them, whether it's during battle, during war, or of old age or disease. Beautiful segment. It balances the show. It's not just all shoot 'em up and screaming at each other. So what else? Yeah, but Micro's bunker, Lieberman's bunker, almost feels like a prison cell, where it's almost like they it looks like they want to be there. Part of them wants to be there, and part of them feel like they are forced to be there, and then they can't wait to get out. It's almost like they were looking for an opportunity to sabotage the secret hiding place, just so they are not they have no choice but to not be there anymore. That's another. It's another nice thing about the Punisher series, where so much of the movie at the beginning is spent in the bunker, that when you finally see daylight, it feels refreshing. When they get to finally stay at a normal hotel room with a family, when Lieberman is reunited with his family, outdoor shots, it just feels like whoo, breath of fresh air. It's like if you watch the original Blade Runner, the movie, like 90% of the movie was in dark, rain, dreary night scenes and inside buildings, and then they finally the end scene is them out driving through the woods, open air, sunshine, beautiful, and it's like breath of fresh air. So, one question: when they were out in the woods and Frank got hurt, and then all of a sudden Lieberman is just driving him back to get medical attention. Like, how did Micro or Lieberman carry Frank all that way from where he was? Oh, I just realized, duh. Lieberman drove his van to where Frank was, and then just kind of lifted him into the. Oh, okay, that's stupid. I keep thinking, oh, he walked all that way in the woods carrying Frank. No, and it's like, that's not like Lieberman. Word like real life. I like how things are explained. And Lieberman is the perfect character to explain everything clearly. He is almost like the narrator of the series. Everything's through him. Oh yeah, everything's through him, or the vet counseling coach. I keep forgetting his name. The guy with the missing leg. So, what else? PTSD. Speaking of the veterans counseling group, I loved how I've never been in the military. I don't have like close relationships with people who have been in the military. It's not like they sat me down and told me how it really was back over there, or wherever they were fighting, and all that stuff. The most that I can learn about PTSD in the military is what I read and what I see in movies and what I see in documentaries. I try to watch documentaries about PTSD. And well, see, I'm drawing a blank. What does PTSD mean? The stress disorder, something, yeah. Oh, post-traumatic stress disorder. And from what I've seen, it seems like the Punisher crew, the writers, did a ton of research on PTSD and tried to do their best to be responsible in presenting PTSD affecting soldiers. Of course, this is it was an extreme case with, I forget what the kid's name is, that just went nuts. But I think it's balanced from what I know about PTSD in the military. It feels like they presented it in a balanced, responsible way. I don't know. You comment on this video or somewhere. Send me a comment on what you think. If it looked accurate to you, if it felt like they did, the writers and the producers did their due diligence in terms of presenting PTSD in the responsible way. Uh, so yeah, but that was and many TV series, TV shows, and movies kind of shy away from that stuff because you have to deal with mental issues, mental illness, and mental anguish, and it's almost like we don't talk about that stuff. We'll talk about the hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. We're gonna win the battle, but once they get back damaged, especially psychologically, like it would just refer them to the VA. That's all. But I like the way this show deals with it. It doesn't try to sweep it under the rug. Let me see. Oh, the guitar music. What a beautiful instant way of balancing all the violence and destruction and noise when they go into the guitar music and his dream sequences and his hallucinations. And I don't know why it was easy for me to differentiate the real from the imagined, and they didn't have to use filters. They just it's the same color scheme. They didn't have to do black and white because sometimes that's annoying to me. But they it when it's a dream sequence, which is cool, and the ending where it's like he had to choose between just giving up or keep on going. That's interspersed with the dream sequence, or what was going on in his conscious and subconscious mind of whether to give up or keep going. That's beautiful with his wife, his dead wife. Wonderful. So my last note on this, the Punisher, is it's the most cohesive Marvel Netflix series. I don't see any one episode being wasted. I actually watched through them, paid attention, and the cool part is I'm paying attention. But when I watch it a second time, I see more stuff, and then I see it a third time, and I see more stuff. And I love if you play it on Netflix, so there's autoplay, so you kind of just leave it alone. Every 3 episodes, Netflix will ask you if you're still around. You just got to hit the play button again. But it was a wonderful show to have on while I was cleaning the house, but being able to still pay attention to the audio, and being able to reverse it or rewind it like 10 or 30 seconds. Rewind. I'm so old. Like go back 30 seconds to see if I missed anything. So that's The Punisher. Go see it if you haven't yet. It's totally worth it. It's not all just shooting bullets. It's not as traumatic as watching Sicario, for sure. It's hard for me to watch Sicario or like No Country for Old Men. Some of those, it's like the violence in that is just so, it feels so real and so brutal. It's not that brutal in The Punisher. I don't know how they did it, or maybe I'm just used to the Marvel Netflix kind of violence. When they do a headshot, the close-up headshot, at the very last moment they turn away from it, and you hear the shot, but you know what's happened. Or they do other effects where you see the blood splatter on a piece of blanket, a piece of white sheet, and you see the violence on the other side of the sheet. But when he shoots the guy in the head, the blood splatter, you see the silhouette of blood splatter on the white sheet. So it's not like in your face. So go watch it. Just the acting is great. Almost every person in there, including the kids. The little boy was kind of annoying, but it's like, yeah, he was part of the whole machinery of how to get the movie, the TV show going. So the kid had to be there. The little boy, the annoying little boy. So the little girl though made up for it because she was smart as hell. She knew when to jump out the window. So that's another thing. One more last thing is the family part. For a show about a loner, violent, just with the mental issues and everything else is going crazy around him, to be able to introduce the domestic life as sort of like to balance everything out, and to do it so you're not bored as hell, and it felt organic and natural. They felt like a real family. Didn't feel like a. They also didn't feel like helpless people, the way other shows would portray the domestic, versus the superhero aspect of it. So that's it for the Punisher, Marvel Netflix, The Punisher. Okay, now I'm gonna promote Prolific Banana. I don't know if you've heard me talk about prolificbanana.com. It's I it's my buddy Megan Vaughn, and she owns a web and print design for small businesses. She's a consultant designer, great with processes. So this is the spiel. I'm gonna read the spiel, and then I'm try to like freestyle it after I read the spiel. Now imagining, I screwed up the spiel already. Let me take a drink. If Megan's listening to this, I'm already fired. So, okay. Imagine updating your branding and website with no stress. We all know first impressions matter. Potential customers will judge a business within only a few seconds. With Prolific Banana guiding the way, you'll get professional, high-quality design and direction that makes your business memorable without you pulling your hair out. If you're ready to get going on a new project or a new website, rebrand, or even create a new brand and logo, visit prolificbanana.com and ask for Megan. Megan, she's really good at branding. And again, her process. So if you have a company, let's say you started a company, you own a small business, and you don't have a logo, you don't have marketing material, you don't even have a color scheme, you don't know what to do next, but you have to present yourself as a professional business, as a respectable business. You have to have your marketing material, and it's not just like marketing. It's the business cards that you hand out, the flyers that you hand out, the website that you show off. You tell the world that you exist. Your logo. How to incorporate that into one package where one person will take care of you regarding all that stuff. That's Prolific Banana. So, and it's hard to forget them because it's a Prolific Banana. Prolificbanana.com. Prolificbanana.com. Just repeat after me. Prolificbanana.com. So yeah, ask for Megan. Tell her I sent you, and then apologize. Just tell her I'm sorry. I'm always. We tease. So, go to prolificbanana.com. So that's the my promotion of Megan's business. So let's see. Her full name Megan Vaughn. So what else? Since we're in the design kind of state of mind, I'm going to talk about this. I have like two monitors on, and trying to figure out where my cursor is at on these two monitors. It's always like it's like Where's Waldo, Okay. This thing I came up kind of with in the last minute. I'm gonna start this segment called Design Troll. So I'm a designer by trade, by school, by university learning. So I figured a good title, why not call it Design Troll? Because I troll designers and I stalk them, and they get creeped out, and then I explain that it's like it's nothing. It's just I admire your work, and then they're okay with it until I stalk them again, and they're probably listening to this right now and laughing, but it's okay. We kind of stalk each other. It's a little segment called Design Troll, and I troll design experts and talk to them about what I learned about looking at their stuff. This might turn into a separate podcast depending on the feedback and how good I feel at how I'm doing this segment. So I might do the Daily Night Presents Design Troll, short, maybe 15-20 minute segment. Today's recommended designer is Ian Paget's Logo Geek. If you go to logogeek.uk, it's Ian Paget, and he has, in addition to being an awesome logo designer, this guy knows his stuff. So, uh, and if you join his Facebook group, Logo Geek, you'll get to know how good he is at this stuff. He's got like deep knowledge about logos, and he's interviewed some of the best people in the industry. Logo Geek podcast. I'm gonna put his links on the show notes, but I'm gonna say it, logogeek.uk. So if you go to logogeek.uk, you get to see it. Then he has a podcast and he interviews famous people who know their stuff. So if you're a designer, I recommend you add him to, like, you subscribe to his podcast, either on your podcast aggregator or on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel, or go to his website and listen to it on Podbean. I think that's what he uses. So, all right. So this is what I wrote regarding Ian. Ian talks to some really important people regarding the current state of design on topics like how logos and brands affect how we see things in everyday life, how seasoned designers can charge tens of thousands of dollars for their work when online places like Fiverr will lowball you down to a few bucks. For example, in Ian's talk with Chris Do, a designer who lives in Los Angeles, Chris talks about how designers almost feel guilty about charging a premium for their work simply because, yeah, design is fun, and us designers do have fun when we're designing. I love designing, and it's almost, when I was starting out, I kind of felt guilty for charging people for my designs because I was just having fun. So, but that doesn't mean that we're giving it away for cheap. I mean, we still got to make a living, and what we do has value, and that's the part of the value part of it, So you got to recognize value from just price. It does take skill and decades of practice to get to where you develop a good design sense that's worth paying for. What I learned is if you think you're a good enough designer to charge Nordstrom prices, then you need to stand your ground when you're quoting your prices to potential clients. This is the stuff I'm learning from Chris Do and Ian Paget and other designers, the ones who've been there and are dealing with big design prices. Don't lowball yourself. Don't sell yourself cheap. So, like customers who go to Nordstrom is a good example. People who go to Nordstrom know that they'll be paying for quality and perceived value. You don't go to Nordstrom thinking you're gonna get away with like $20 because it's good high quality from fashion designers that are internationally respected, and Nordstrom knows that, which is why there is no haggling at Nordstrom compared to like swap meets and etc. Ian Paget also talked to David Breyer regarding branding, and here's one of the things that David Breyer said about branding. Branding makes the consumer's life easier when choosing a product. So basically in America, you have a grocery aisle with dozens of different cereal boxes. No kidding. You have to choose one of these cereal boxes. How do you choose? And even if you narrow it down to just the healthy ones without all that sugar, you still have to choose from at least half a dozen to a dozen of them, mostly in the same price range. So how do you choose at that point, especially when you've never tried any of the healthy cereals yet? Like you've never tried any of these and you got to choose one. The answer is packaging, which is branding, which is how marketers and designers get people to notice their brand, to stand out. How they get people to decide that by just looking at the packaging, the quality of the graphics and the logo, that's the healthy cereal that they're going to buy. I went to the grocery store the other day and I thought I'm just going to get Kashi cereal, just that one. And then I go there and it's like there's like 5 different Kashis type, but they weren't named Kashi, but they looked like Kashi. They were organic or something like that, and they're low in sugar and high in the healthy stuff. It's like, what do I do now? I used to just go for there was one Kashi. It was not it was more expensive, but it was healthy. organic, all that stuff. Like, now what do I choose? How do I differentiate? Well, that's where branding is. If you can separate yourself from the rest by having really good design and appropriate design that talks to the consumer so that they feel comfortable with your packaging and your branding and they trust you, then they'll buy. Hopefully you have, actually good product, that it tastes good and it's healthy for you, and so you wrap a good product in good marketing and branding and packaging, and you got a good thing going. So that's it. So take a listen to Ian's podcast called Logo Geek, and you can also find his website if you Google Logo Geek. He's all over the place. I'm in his Facebook Logo Geek group, and we talk about this stuff every day. And in case, now speaking for me, Gerard San Diego, in case you're wondering, I'm kind of segueing into my other PSA about my company, I think. Well, maybe not. Okay. In case you're wondering if I think I'm a good enough designer to charge a premium, yes, I am. And I've been doing it for, 20 years now. If you're looking for a content creator and internet strategist, I'm very good at that also. Wait until the last PSA of this podcast to hear more about my business, internetarchitect.org. You know what? I'm going to call an audible right now, and I'm going to jump. I have another segment of movies and TV shows that I've been watching, and other movies and TV shows. I'm going to talk about that next podcast. We're running low on time. I'm going to talk about my own business now, internetarchitect.org. So it's a lot of letters and a lot of funky spelling. internetarchitect.org. I'm going to have the link in my show notes. So what I specialize in is more content creation and internet strategy. So to differentiate myself, I also kind of do, designers more often than not will overlap each other in terms of skills. But if you want to find a specialist, that's how Megan and I can work together, Prolific Banana and our internet architect. We can work together because we have specialties. And then we can work with Ian because his specialty is logo design. So Megan can work on, and then my business partner, Christy, who is the founder of Making Biscuits. We're all designers, by the way. So this whole superhero Star Wars stuff, that's just the front. We're all here to push our design businesses and make a lot of money, which we're still trying to get to. So, Megan is about branding, and she also does great websites. So she can do the WordPress websites and stuff. Ian specializes in logos and branding. Christy, she runs Making Biscuits, but she is also a terrific graphic designer and illustrator. So all that like Adobe Illustrator stuff, the really fancy stuff, she knows how to do. She specializes in that. And then my specialty is content creation, internet strategies. So from trying to tell the story properly on your website to writing the words, I do writing. What kind of slogan should you have? I also do a little bit of logos, but more try to stick with the verbiage, the word parts. And internet strategies is I architect websites. I wireframe storyboard them so that you experience the website so that the story is the most clear after you've navigated the pages. So I kind of hold you by the hand. I design websites that will hold you by the hand, that you would go through, and you will have a very clear understanding of what the website is about, what the company is about, what the product is about. So I move words around. I write new words. I shorten words. I shorten sentences. I lengthen sentences. I try to tell the story. So that's my specialty, internetarchitect.org. If you go to that website, you'll get a better understanding of what I do. Yeah, that's it. So let me talk about the spiel that I wrote. Since I wrote it, I got to go say it or get wasted. Now, this is what I specialize in, creating content and helping my clients figure out what to put on their website and how to promote their companies through their social network accounts. Whatever they need me to do, storyboard and wireframe their website, write and edit their text, go through their photos and images to see what will work best, come up with slogans, taglines, picking just the right words for just the right moments. That's my job. I often collaborate with other creatives like Christy and Megan and Ian, like graphic designers, web coders, print shops, and social influencers, putting together websites, social ad campaigns, posters, pamphlets, brochures, any kind of promotional material that will tell my client's product story to his audience and ultimately bring in more business. So one of these days, that would be kind of a cool, like a Defenders, Netflix Defenders, where you have 4 people with specialties to put together, but we're all designers. So it'll be me, Gerardo San Diego from Internet Architect, joining with Christy Brewer from Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, even though she's also my business partner with C2 Design. And then we join with Megan Vaughn, who specializes in branding and processes, and she'll get you the forms that you need in the proper way. And then we need a killer logo, so we go to Ian Paget, and he gives us a killer logo. And then we put all these forces together, and then you have this awesome corporate package that you're gonna love and pay us a lot of money for. So I've lost my mind. Oh, I need to drink something. Yeah, okay, that's it. I'm done. How deep are we in this? Oh, Jiminy, 2-hour podcast. I think this is the longest I've ever done. Just freaking Last Jedi and the Buddhism stuff kind of threw me off. But so much to talk about. So, that's it for the what is it? The rejiggered, re-debut, the Daily Night 2.0 return of the podcast for the month of January. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully, maybe you need some sleep, and I put you to sleep, and you were able to take a really good nap while listening to this podcast. Maybe you learned something. That'd be cool. Shoot me a line. I'm out. Just do a search for the Daily Night podcast. I'm also on Facebook. I actually have a Facebook group where we can discuss stuff. I post like updated like movie trailers and whatever else I can find on entertainment and TV shows. So, but you begin with where you can find me, thedailynight.net. The Daily Night with a K. I keep forgetting about that. The Daily Night with a K.net. So this is me, Gerardo San Diego. I'm out of breath. I'm out of voice. Soon I need to drink some juice. Until next time, I will talk more about current movies and TV shows and philosophies and other stuff. So until the next show, thank you for listening. May the force be with you. I'm still trying to figure out a good byline, because I've been doing the May the Force be with you, but I keep thinking, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna try this one. I'm totally stealing from Edward R. Murrow, the godfather of broadcast journalism from CBS. There was a movie called Good Night and Good Luck, and that was his call sign or end of his show every time he does that. So I want to end with good day and good night. Hopefully that works. Okay, see you next time. Bye.